All right, once House impeachment managers wrap up opening arguments, the president's legal team will begin theirs. They will also get 24 hours over 3 days to present their points to a room full of senators.
Their presentation will follow 3 days of arguments by the House impeachment managers who say the president obstructed Congress and abused his power. CBS News White House correspondent Ben Tracy is following the latest in Washington and joins us now. So, Ben, we actually have a lot of different things to talk to you about, but let's start here. How is the president's legal team preparing for tomorrow?
Well, they say they're prepared, they're ready to go, and we know the president has been frustrated and very anxious to get his side of the story out there. And when you think about this, this is the first time we're really going to hear the president's formal case, because keep in mind, when the impeachment proceedings were going on in the House, the president's team refused to engage in that process. So we will finally now hear the president's case. We know a little bit about how the president is feeling about all of this. Senator Lindsey Graham said that he talked to the president. The president is kind of bored by all of this. We then saw the president tweeting this morning and saying that his team has to start their presentation tomorrow, a Saturday, which the president referred to as the Death Valley of television.
Yeah, I'm certainly worried about those ratings, I guess.
Based on all his tweeting, I don't think he's that bored by it. He's been watching a lot.
He seems very engaged in what's going on.
For sure. But for our viewers, Ben, who may want some other news as to what the President of the United States is doing on their behalf, let's talk about some of those things. Let's talk about environmental protection and the EPA announcing yesterday that it was limiting restrictions on streams and wetlands. What can you tell us about the new rules?
Yeah, this is something that's kind of flown under the radar largely because impeachment is overshadowing everything else going on here in Washington. But this is pretty significant. This is basically going to strip away environmental protections for a lot of streams, wetlands, and groundwater. So, for instance, if you were a farmer that owns a piece of land, or if you were a developer trying to develop a piece of land, you can now much more easily dump pollutants, pesticides, you name it, into streams and wetlands on your property. So this is something that is obviously infuriating environmentalists, but making farmers and developers very happy. This was a signature achievement of the Obama administration. One more thing that President Trump is wanting to overrule.
Okay, here's another biggie that we just haven't talked about in a very long time. The president's peace plan. He says he will likely release his Mideast plan ahead of a White House meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and opposition leader Benny Gantz next week. So what do we know about this plan? It's sort of shrouded in mystery, really.
And Ben, can that plan, how viable is it if we don't have the leadership of the Palestinian Authority?
But also,
good question.
With Israel is also not that settled politically as well, right?
Yes, all good questions. So a couple issues here. So we got this kind of surprise announcement yesterday that Benjamin Netanyahu and perhaps Benny Gantz are going to come here to the White House next week. The president then said he's going to unveil this peace plan. This is something the president has wanted to do for a long time. They've had this plan on a shelf, mainly because there's been all these issues with elections in Israel. And those issues are not resolved. They're going to have their third general election in a year coming up on March 2nd. But apparently the president has kind of lost patience and wants to move on with this. So he plans to unveil this peace plan. This is something that Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, has been working on, and the president kind of famously said, if Jared can't get this done, nobody can get it done. In terms of what's actually in it, we don't really know the details of this, but there is one big missing piece of this puzzle. This would be a peace plan between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and by all accounts, the Palestinians are not engaged on this issue right now because they don't see the Trump administration as an honest broker in all of this, because the administration has basically sided with Israel on every contentious issue that has come up over in that part of the world in the past 3 years. So they may unveil a plan here next week and get some coverage for that, but whether or not this is anything approaching viable or would even lead to a real discussion about it remains to be seen.
Okay, we'll be watching. And finally, the president is scheduled to speak today, Ben, as you know, at the annual March for Life. He will be the first ever sitting president to make remarks at the event. What are you hearing from the White House about why the president decided to participate?
Well, this is a big deal for this event. This is the first time in the 47-year history of this march that a sitting U.S. president will actually appear in person and deliver remarks. Last year, Vice President Pence went to it, and President Trump provided some remarks via video from the Rose Garden. There's two things here, I think. This is a big issue to President Trump's base. This is something that he talks about a lot on the campaign trail, especially at his rallies, sometimes in very graphic terms, talking about late-term abortion. But this is something that very much resonates with his supporters. So he wants to be seen in this space. I think you could also make an argument, especially today, as the House managers wrap up their arguments, that there's some counter-programming going on here, the president appearing at another event that's important to his supporters and not simply sitting here at the White House and tweeting about impeachment.
All right, Ben Tracy, thank you.
Thank you.